Welcome back to the shop, everyone. What we have in front of you here is plans to do a two-way cross-braced stool. This was actually requested by one of the viewers. So what we have in the background is some spruce. I couldn't get cedar in the right size, so I got spruce instead. Very similar softwood. It won't make that much of a difference. So we're going to do two of these. We're going to build one using the spruce, and we're going to use the same plans that it has inside the book here. So we're going to use screws to put it together. And then I'm going to build a second one because I like to make things difficult for myself. And we're going to use cherry and use some different jointery on there and try not use any screws in it. So I'm going to try and use a combination of the domino jointer, maybe some box joints, things like that to try and put this thing together. But first, let's start out with the spruce one and go from there. All right, we are putting this together. The book doesn't actually tell you how to find these angles other than saying use a angle finder. So I like things simple. I clamped it up, made sure that this is still a 90, which it is. So it's just roughly held together. So I could find this angle. Once I have the starting point here, I can measure from these 2 points out and then calculate my next angle. So anyway, what I did is I set this down, I put my 45 in there, and as you can see, it's nice and snug. So I know that those angles are correct. That was interesting. Turns out because the leg, if you will, of the back of the stool is longer than this, then my angles are different. So it's 45 degrees in here, but when you start looking at the leg, flip that around so you can see it, it's actually, there, that works better rather than upside down, 50 degrees at the bottom and 40 degrees at the top. So when you put it together, your 50 degrees goes on the long side, and then your 40 degrees goes on the short side, and that gives you whatever angle this is. So yeah, a little bit of mucking around there to figure out what was going on, but that all worked out. So now we got to sand everything and start screwing it together. So here's the first chair, seat, table. So this was the build straight out of the book. No changes were made. Hardest thing for me was figuring out the angles of these two pieces here. Like I said earlier, one was 50, one was 40 degrees. Just a little bit of mucking around. Next thing that was a bit of a challenge was getting the leg pieces put in here properly. So because I can't throw a clamp on there, I cut these off first and then put them together. To attach it, I over drilled these pieces, so I made the holes, that my pilot holes in there, as big as the screw is in diameter, so they're number 8 screws, so that when I screwed through here, it actually pulled these pieces in, which worked out pretty well. You can see my joints pretty good there. The only other thing that I'd mention is using the plans out of the book. In Imperial, it gives you almost 16 inches high. I find that a little bit low. I'm going to make the next one just slightly taller, so I'm going to put it up to about 17 inches. I'm 5'8", and when I sit on this, my legs are definitely not at a 90. I'm off 90, so I'm going to make it a little bit taller. But other than that, it's super fun. I like it. I like the design overall. I really don't like these pieces out front here. They look kind of shabby. My next one, like I said, I'm going to change this design a little bit, but everything else is pretty fun. So yeah, let's go make one out of cherry. All right, moment of truth. Did I set this up correctly? So you can already see that there is a slight problem, but I don't think it's the end of the world. That is a little snug. It's actually not that tight, as you can see. It's just binding a little bit. Like I said, slightly off square. Yeah, so as you can see, I obviously missed this. It's hard to see on camera, but there's about a 1/8 inch that's out of whack there. So somewhere in my jig setup, something moved, or I didn't set something up quite right. But it's the first time I've used that thing. I definitely, it is a little bit proud. We got like maybe a 32nd of an inch. I cut it a little bit proud though because I was having issues getting the router to sit at the right depth. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll err on the side of a little bit too proud because I can sand that down. But that's okay. This is, I'll just run that through the table saw. I'll trim that edge off. I'll mark it right now. I'll trim that off. I actually allowed it to be a little bit wide just in case I made a mistake like this, which I did. So we'll fix that and then we'll move on to the next part. All right, I'm using a highly technical stand here with some highly technical shims, which is basically my sketchbook. And what I want to do is I want to line up where I'm going to put my dominoes, like so. So that I can put my mark across. Like so. So now I have my marks to run the dominoes in. These will fit in there nicely, like so. And we'll go from there. So we'll start doing some plunge cutting. All right, so we got the legs attached. I had to do a little bit of MacGyvering here to be able to apply clamping pressure on this. So what I did, take this off, is I used double-sided sticky tape to adhere it, and then as you saw I had a clamp across here to provide enough pressure against that I can clamp it down. It did shift a little bit, but it allowed me to apply enough clamping pressure there that I was able to get it on. So yeah, those are on, and then these, I'll have to use a chisel and just peel these off. So those are in place, so the next thing we got to do is put the seat on, essentially. So obviously got to put glue in there, put the dominoes in, glue that all together. That should go fairly well because I can then clamp both ways on that. So yeah, that should work out pretty good. So far, so good. Hopefully I haven't spoken too soon. That crack you just heard, it was the joint sliding together. Okay, that looks good that way. Now I just have to make sure that it sets the other way. So I am going to go off camera so that I can flip this up and lean it against the wall, and you won't be able to see anything because I'll be standing in front of it. Be right back. All right, we have my patented 37 clamps on one little tiny piece of furniture. This actually turned out better than I thought it was. Just cleaning out some of the glue there, but overall everything looks pretty good. I don't see any real gaps as near as I can tell. Yeah, it looks actually really good. Had to hit it a few times, but nothing serious, just using just the persuasion device. That went together fairly well. So yeah, we'll let that set up overnight. And then we are going to clean off the little bit of edge that I got there. I'll sand that down. And we have to put the supporting uprights that run, switch this around, that run this way underneath. I still haven't 100% figured it out. I think I'm going to use through dowels on it, but we'll see once we get those cut. All right, here is the finished product. We're doing a tight shot first because I wanted to explain, I didn't film this part. For the uprights that came out to the front and the bottom on the other one, I decided to recess those back. So they're recessed back about 2 inches from the top and about 4 inches from the bottom. And then to attach them, you can see I used through dowels on each side here. Not the most eloquent solution, but it's the best one I could come up with. Because trying to figure out how to get everything pushed together and lined up with one piece with doweling going through these and then into this would have been a nightmare. So I decided to go through dowels, and then for the upright where it attaches in here, I've just glued it on. I used Tight Bond 3, clamped it together. I think that's super solid. I don't think it'll ever go anywhere. Spin this around. My favorite part of the whole build was definitely the roundover, or sorry, the box joint with a roundover on it. I really like the look. Really like the way the cherry turned out too. It's pretty. I tried to make sure the grain kind of wrapped across the corner, which it's hard to see from this angle, but if I bring it up, you can see that the grain somewhat matches. It's the same board, but I had to cut the middle out. But it is all one piece, all continuous flow. I really like the way it looked. So I'm going to zoom out here like so. So you can see the both of them together. Like I said, I did make the one on the left bigger. It's about 1.5 inches taller, 1.25 inches. I haven't actually measured it. But yeah, a little bit bigger, a little bit wider, a little bit more useful, I think, in a household kind of area. If I was to make these again, I would make this one on the left for if I was having it in the house beside a couch, something like that. I would spend the extra effort, do a box joint, do dovetails, make it look fancy. If I was doing this for making planter holder, or doing something like if you have a fire pit in the yard and you want some seating around it, I would definitely batch these out. They're super easy to make once you figure the angles out. You could easily do, I don't know, 6, 7 of these in a day without much stress. These ones obviously take a little longer. This took me about 8 hours to put together. But yeah, once again, I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly enjoyed making it. And if you like this kind of content, please subscribe to the channel. It lets me know to continue putting videos like this out. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good day.